although you find it there in my father's thought and also in the Tunisian Islamic movement's practice from its early days, from the 80s, recognizing the rights of others.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the IAIS podcast, a podcast dedicated to global Muslim affairs and issues involve Muslim political as well as geopolitical issues. Together here with me is Dr. Yusra Ghannouchi, the former international spokesperson for Ennahda Party in Tunisia. And today we'll talk about her perspective as the daughter of Sheikh Rached Ghannouchi, as a well-known and a prominent leader in Tunisia, as well as the global Muslim Ummah, and her perspective on how her father works and how her father comes up with all his ideas as on Muslim democracy and so forth. So, again, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very
it's a
happy
pleasure to be here.
Very pleasure. My pleasure is also mine. And I heard you had a long journey from London yesterday.
Yes, I came just yesterday, so I'm still a bit jet lagged, but I'm very happy to be here in Malaysia. This is my second visit, and I'd like to thank the Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies for this kind invitation and this opportunity to discuss this book and to be in Malaysia again.
Yes, again, welcome.
Thank you.
And for the audience at home, we just finished the book launch for this book on Muslim democracy, written by Rached Ghannouchi and Professor Andrew March. And the book was launched by the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Tan Sri Sheikh Hamid Albar. And I think the event was a success. And we also had a book discussion afterwards with Dr. Galul.
It was a
and,
great discussion.
Mrs. Nurul Izzah Anwar, talking about the book and a lot of engagement, I think. What do you think of the book launch?
It was, the keynote speeches were very touching, by the eminent speakers who knew my father personally, and they were also very thought-provoking, very rich presentations, and later the contributions of Mrs. Nurul Izzah and Dr. Ahmed Galul, and the contributions of the people present were very interesting, and I really enjoyed it.
Yes, for your information, I think the book has been sold out. It's been a hit among the audience. So maybe partly thanks
did a good job, alhamdulillah,
to your book discussion. And I think this is a new book really just published this year in OUP, Oxford University Press. And I think this book represents the latest ideas by Sheikh Rached Ghannouchi, who is unfortunately in prison right now. And this month, I think, commemorates 1 month. 1 year. Unfortunately.
So yes, as you said, this book is the latest book published by my father. It's co-authored by my father, Rached Ghannouchi, and Professor Andrew March. The main part of the book is translated essays by my father on various topics, as well as a long introduction discussing these ideas by Professor Andrew March, and a very interesting discussion and debate. This is the third part of the book, where Professor Andrew March spent many days in Tunisia discussing directly these ideas with my father and clarifying further some of those ideas. Unfortunately, this event I should not have been part of this event, although it's a pleasure and honor to be here. The main speakers should have been Professor Andrew March and my father. As you said, he's not able to be here because he's in prison. He has been in prison for 386 days, for over 1 year, unjustly, because he embodies these ideas struggling for freedom and democracy in Tunisia, which is currently being unfortunately led by a president who wants to take Tunisia back to the days of dictatorship, the very dictatorship that Tunisians rose against in the revolution of 2011 that sparked the rest of the Arab Spring in the region. Unfortunately, I'm here to discuss these ideas. This is the second book that's been published with
OUP.
by OUP, and although my father, is not here, it is a pleasure to see his ideas still drawing so much interest and providing so much inspiration beyond Tunisia, in Malaysia and across the Muslim world.
Our prayers are with them, with Sheikh Rached Ghannouchi.
Thank you.
And although physically he's not here, at least his ideas are still free. I mean, to explore other. I mean, to be heard by others. And from our discussion, from our talk with Professor Andrew March, he said that this book culminates Sheikh's recent thinking. I mean, he said that there's an evolution of his thinking, at least in terms of writing. I mean, can you explain more about that to our viewers?
The ideas, the central ideas, have been there in my father's thought and practice for decades. The ideas of pluralism, freedom, justice, the compatibility between Islam and democracy. My father has been writing about those for almost half a century, and his name is associated with these ideas in the Muslim world and beyond. However, as you know, ideas evolve as you try to implement them on the ground. And in Tunisia, we've had the chance after the revolution to implement these ideas, and hence you see an evolution in those ideas. But on the whole, the essays and articles included in the book are from different periods before the revolution and after the revolution.
Do you have any any examples that maybe people wanted to know what has changed? I mean, at least in terms of his writings, are there any significant example?
I think it's not particularly change on new ideas that you can point to, but some ideas that become more clearly elaborated and more emphasized. For instance, the idea of consensus and consensus building. Although you find it there in my father's thought and also in the Tunisian Islamic movement's practice from its early days, from the 80s, recognizing the rights of others, from across the political spectrum, to be free to act, to be nominated, to be elected, and that was at the time pioneering within Islamic circles, who placed limits on who can participate, who can govern. However, this idea became more and more prominent, because when you have diversity, and you always have diversity, as is emphasized in my father's writings, diversity is not an accident, it's not a problem, it's an inherent.
It's deliberate.
If Allah says, if Allah had wished, He would have created us all the same. But this is part of Allah's purpose in creation, that we are different, and that we have to manage those differences peacefully. In Tunisia, before the revolution, Ennahda had to deal with people from leftists to liberals to nationalists to Islamists in the struggle against dictatorship, and after the revolution, you had to govern, and it's not simply a result of the election result, because Ennahda, even before the election, said that particularly in a transition, we don't need majoritarian democracy.
Okay.
We don't need 51%. That is not enough in a transition. You need to bring everyone on board. So Ennahda called for a unity government before the election results. And it said that, whatever result Ennahda achieves, it wants to work with everyone, because no one should be excluded, because the challenges are so great, particularly in a constituent phase where you are building the new institutions of a new Tunisia, writing a new constitution, setting up, all these democratic institutions. You need everyone to be on board, everyone to be involved, everyone to be included. So this idea of consensus building became more and more prominent in my father's writings and practice as well.
Later years.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent, Dr. Yusra. So, for ladies and gentlemen, for our viewers, so that's about our book on Muslim democracy, the latest publications by Sheikh Rached Ghannouchi and Andrew March. If you want to know more about the book, please grab a copy for yourselves. And I think we already started the podcast with a very serious and high note. Maybe we can dial it down because the title of the podcast is actually From the Eyes of a Daughter, Reflections on Rached Ghannouchi, Freedom and Democracy. So maybe we can dial it back and maybe ask a little bit about yourself as the daughter. From your point of view, how do you see your father growing up, and maybe a little bit about your family, your kids. I heard that you have 2 kids waiting for you from London. That's why you keep your visit here short. So maybe please tell a little bit about yourself.
I have three children, three sons. And that's partly why I can't stay in Malaysia longer, unfortunately.
That's gonna be a problem.
It's not easy for a mother.
Maybe next time we will invite everybody.
They would love to. We would love to, inshallah. It's just now it's exam time, so this is not the best of times. But I was born in Tunisia, grew up in Tunisia. So this is, Tunisia under Bourguiba and Ben Ali, the pre-revolution Tunisia. And obviously I grew up with, politics all around me. My father was, obviously the leader of Ennahda Party, which is the main party in Tunisia. And as a result of that, he was imprisoned twice when I was a child. So that is a big part of my childhood memories, visiting my father in prison. Which for a child, maybe we did not realize, all the dimensions. We, enjoyed visiting my father in prison. He would sit with us and tell us stories and sing songs with us.
But even as a kid, you know the gravity of the situation, right?
Of
or
course.
maybe Sheikh Rached
maybe
said
not
that
completely. I think we maybe did not.
He said that he's on holiday.
No, I mean we knew that he had problems with the government, and you may not understand fully the reality, but we understood that he's in the opposition, that he is struggling for justice and for freedom, and sadly now he is in prison again, something that we would not have imagined, especially after the revolution.
You don't have access to visit,
and now sadly, because I'm abroad, I have not seen him since the coup that happened on the 25th of July 2021. So of course, I miss him, and since he's imprisoned, I have not even spoken to him on the phone. We're obviously concerned about him, because although it's not his first time in prison, he's not as young as he used to be. I mean, still in terms of his spirit, we always say he's younger than us. He's always full of energy and optimism.
82 right now, right?
He is 82, but he always tries to find the positive side in any experience. So as he wrote recently in a letter marking the passing of 1 year since his imprisonment. He wrote that although prison is the most brutal institution invented by mankind, because it deprives people from their essence, which is freedom. So he does not in any way romanticize prison, as sometimes we can do in the literature of mihna, and but at the same time he talks about how he is using this mihna, this test, as a minha, as an opportunity to read more, to write. As you know, before the revolution, before he was imprisoned, he's the Speaker of Parliament and the head of the largest party in Tunisia. So his schedule is 100% full.
Yes.
He didn't have time to read and write as much as he wanted to. So now he can do that in prison. So he's alhamdulillah, he's patient, he's in high spirits, he's full of faith and conviction in the same ideals that he's always championed. He's following events that are happening outside. He's been following obviously, like all of us, the genocide happening in Gaza, and since the first day of the latest event, since the 7th of October, he started to fast every single day and do qiyam every day, making dua for our brothers and sisters in Palestine, which has continued since then. It only stopped for when there was a ceasefire. So this is
even the ceasefire
an example
is not that
of
long.
Yes, it was just a few days. Yes. So this is an example of how, whatever situation you find yourself in, you still continue your struggle, and you maintain your belief in your principles. And this is what he said, that freedom is worth sacrificing for. This is the price that you have to pay.
So has his conviction, you mentioned that Sheikh Ghannouchi fasted and commit qiyam, which is night prayers, every day since the attack on Gaza. Does this type of conviction, how does this shape your childhood? I mean, or maybe your views even now?
So I mean, that's a good question. When I think about it, this is how I see my father. He has all these aspects in coexisting in harmony in his life, and he has been consistent in all these areas. His commitment to struggling for freedom and justice, that is fueled by his faith, and his religious commitment. So this is what I feel he has demonstrated throughout his life.
Well, you mentioned that you visited your father when you were a child. How about your kids, his grandchildren? How they see his grandfather? I mean, do they understand the gravity of the situation?
Obviously, like I was when I was a child. They don't understand all the details, but like I did, they see him as a hero, like I did, as an example for them of courage, of determination,
but they are still school children, right? If I'm not mistaken, 7 years old.
Yeah, so they're very small. So I have twins who are 7, and my son.
7.
Yes, I have twins who are 7, and my son Zakaria is 13 and a half. So they're still young. But they understand that they can't see their grandfather because he's in prison, because he is struggling for freedom and justice, and that inshallah, one day he'll be out. Inshallah.
During the book discussion, we met with Mrs. Nurul Izzah Anwar, and coincidentally, his father is her family also experienced as maybe if I can say similar situation where their father is imprisoned many times by the government, and maybe throughout their childhood they spend their time in prison as well. But Miss Nuriza said shared a little bit about how she joined politics. I mean, it's a coincidence. She didn't plan to, so it's like suddenly she got involved. How about you? I mean, do you have any like a push factor, or what's your story?
So yeah, I think it's similar in a way. None of us grew up, planning.
You don't plan to be the international
to be
spokesperson.
to be in politics, but all of us were active. My parents encouraged us to be active, to be involved. We were all involved in at university, in different ways. I'm a scout leader, so we're involved in working with children. In
Scout leader.
Yes, and
Sell cookies over there. I'm not sure.
you have something similar,
Oh, really?
I think. And working with students, setting up pro-Palestine associations at university, working with Islamic societies at university. Being engaged in. We grew up in London, so being engaged in British Muslim community and civil society, but not really in politics, I think. So all of my siblings have always been active and involved in different activities. But although we follow politics is part of our lives. But after the revolution, I think it just happened. I got involved, especially having grown up abroad. So I had this opportunity to represent the party as the international spokesperson. But what you said about the family of Prime Minister Dr. Anwar Ibrahim and Nurulaiza, I identify with
you met
that.
her.
Yes, it was a pleasure to meet today. And like you said, yes, you feel you kind of share a lot of this, the upbringing and experience. And, it makes you realize how, what matters is not what position you are in. One day you might be in prison, or your father might be in prison. One day he might be in the opposition, or he might be in government. But what matters is being steadfast and being committed to your principles, whatever position you're in.
Yes, inshallah, very interesting. Since we're on the topic of background, you shared to me before our podcast that your background is in astrophysics or physics, and then along the way you change trajectory or maybe shift your attention. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
So yeah, I was mentioning that I have a lot of Malaysian friends, because when I was studying at Imperial College, there were a lot of Malaysian students doing engineering. So since then, I've kept those friendships and learned a lot about Malaysian culture from those days, from interacting with them. So at the time I was studying physics. And then I did my master's in astrophysics and my MPhil research in astrophysics as well. And then somehow, partly, because of my readings on, political thought and Islamic reform, I kind of shifted interest,
What is your PhD in?
So then I did my PhD on Islam, reform and gender, and the focus was on the writings of Muhammad Abdu in the area of women. So that's my area.
Welcome back to the IAIS podcast. Here with me again, Dr. Yusra Ghannouchi, the former international spokesperson for Ennahda in Tunisia. So continuing our discussion, my question to you is, how do you believe your father's legacy and the Ennahda movement's influence will be viewed by future generations of Tunisians? And what do you see as the key successes and challenges of the party's political trajectory?
Oh, that's a
That's
big
a very
question.
fundamental question.
I think, despite the, demonization that my father has been the subject of, and another party as well, by, certain media that have, misrepresented him and his ideas. I think people have had the chance now to see both Ennahda's practice after the revolution that hopefully dispelled some of those fears and demonization that was spread against them, that they will monopolize power, that they will use democracy to get to power and then discard it. So I think people have had the chance to see their commitment, the commitment of my father and Ennahda to democracy, and how they have gone even beyond majoritarian democracy to build alliances, to build consensus in order to preserve Tunisia's transition. And I think also hopefully this is a chance for those who were not exposed to my father's writings. Before the revolution in Tunisia, my father's writings were banned from Tunisian book fairs and bookshops. It was a crime to to read his books.
Is it banned now after his imprisonment?
Now they are, after the coup. But so now hopefully people will be reading them, and in more than one language, so
they can always find it online.
Yes, also. So I hope this is an opportunity for people to read his ideas for themselves, and this will remain his legacy. And so even if they imprison him, they can't imprison his ideas that have inspired so many people, including here in Malaysia, just as he himself has also benefited and learned from his discussions and interactions. He has been to Malaysia many times before the revolution and after the revolution. He has a lot of old friends here, and he's always benefited from his visits here, discussing the ideas of Islam and democracy, power sharing, and dealing with diversity. And Malaysia is a very diverse country in many ways. So he drew a lot of inspiration from Malaysia, and it represented a lot of hope for him. Just as his ideas have traveled around the world and inspired so many people.
Yeah, I think Sheikh Rached Ghannouchi is a close friend of Malaysia, and I think a few years back he was invited to receive an award by the government.
Yes.
And as we discussed in our book discussion just now, two of the most prominent Muslim Democrats in the Muslim world often mentioned is your father, Sheikh Rached Ghannouchi, on one hand, and on one hand is our Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim. And incidentally, he also has a biography, Anwar Ibrahim, The Evolution of a Muslim Democrat. So the term Muslim Democrat, which is espoused and popularized by Sheikh Rached, is well known in Malaysia, and I think as well in the Muslim world. And I think that's a credit to his ideas and his prolific writings. But my question is to you is, how do you feel the younger generation, how do you feel they receive it? I mean, in Tunisia, or maybe in overseas, or in London, where you currently staying. How do you feel the reception of the younger generation, the youth, on Muslim democracy?
I think there is, a lot of interest in these ideas, especially as I said, many people would not have been exposed to my father's ideas before. So and my father has always been keen to meet with young people and engage in discussions, very open discussions. So I hope that they will. I know there's less reading nowadays, unfortunately, but I hope that
A lot more scrolling.
that young people will read these books and continue this continue this conversation between generations, because obviously, although I believe that youth should be engaged and they should be given a greater role, and that was something sadly that we started doing in Tunisia after the revolution, especially in local governance. We had a lot of young mayors and young people on local councils. So this was a way of getting young people involved. This is now obviously all being destroyed and dismantled by the current regime. But so I believe that there is a great need for this continuity between different generation and learning from each other.
Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to measure the effectiveness and how they receive these new ideas, but at least, I mean, your gut feeling, how do you feel they receive, I mean, the future generations of Tunisians? Do you think they are more open and more receptive for democracy, or do you think it's maybe a bit further along the road because of the obstacles, or maybe a lot of hindrance by the current government?
I mean, the current challenge we have now is who can provide hope to young people, because after the revolution there was huge hope, there were great expectations, and then obviously there was disappointment because not everything could be achieved, because perhaps we did not convey this idea that change will not be easy, it will not be quick, it will take time. Revolutions do not achieve their aims overnight, and maybe that's something that people expected. They take time, and there are always counter revolutions, and change takes time. So there was disappointment, and the problem is that now, after the coup, there's greater hopelessness and disenchantment among young people, because what the current regime has done is exploit the problems of the transition, because the transition had achieved a lot in terms of establishing a new democratic system, but had not achieved all the promises of prosperity and jobs and economic development. So the regime used, the current regime used these difficulties to manipulate people and tell them that democracy does not work, and that we need to get rid of parliament and democracy so that you can solve economic problems. Obviously now people can see that not only have we lost freedom, the economy has got worse under the current president, despite his promises. So this is leading to more loss of hope, and this can lead to dangerous things.
I think that would be my last question for you today. Since you mentioned economy, how do you think, with the current condition, the current economic and social conditions in Tunisia, what are the futures, and maybe what do you think is the way forward for Tunisia?
So as I was saying, the economic crisis is only getting worse.
Yes.
Because the current regime is not interested in solving problems. The only concern is accumulating power and eliminating any opposition. So I think more and more people are realizing that dictatorship dictatorship cannot provide prosperity, cannot provide solutions, and that democracy may not be perfect. We did not have a perfect system. It could be improved, it could be reformed, but getting rid of democratic institutions has not solved the economic problems. It has made them worse. Tunisia now is facing unprecedented problems, shortcomings, inflation, and this is what is leading to increase in migration because young people are losing hope, and this is very dangerous. So what we need is to restore our democracy and fix its shortcomings, and this can only be done through going back to consensus building. Try to involve everyone, to engage in dialogue with everyone who believes in democracy, to restore our democracy and have a representative, inclusive government that can deal with the real issues. You know, the current president has been changing the constitution, changing the political system, but the real problems that we have in Tunisia are the economic problems. So we need a government that will focus on those. And despite, you know, the current situation, there are hopeful signs of the opposition getting closer together through dialogue to unite in order to restore democracy. So we continue to be optimistic. This is one of the main characteristics of my father, is optimism, whatever the situation. So we have no choice but to continue to be optimistic that freedom will prevail in the end, inshallah.
Thank you very much, inshallah. So ladies and gentlemen, I think that wraps up our IAIS podcast for today. And for those who haven't get your hands on the latest book by Sheikh Rached Ghannouchi and Professor Andrew March, please get your copy at the nearest online store, or maybe contact IAIS for our own copies. So if you buy it with us, you have a special discount and maybe with a signature from Dr. Yusra Ghannouchi, but that's very limited. And it is a great pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much.
I'm honored. Thank you very much. I hope to see you again. And inshallah, may Allah help your father, and hopefully his situation is reversed soon, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you again in the next podcast.